Welcome back to Uncontested Investing. I'm Tim Harris. Thank you for swinging back by. Today, I'm here with a bit of a legend, Rotty. And that's all we're going to call him. No last names today. It's just Rotty. Rotty, thanks.
I turned myself into a symbol.
Thanks for being here, man.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so if the audience lives under a rock and has no idea who you are, why don't you just tell them a little bit about yourself?
I'm the baddest house flipper ever.
Ever.
And here's why. Because I was doing this long before the '08 recession, right? We all know that it got really hot after '08, hedge fund-wise, REO-wise, the whole nine. But I was doing this a long time ago. And I'm actually a contractor, have been for 20-plus years. So my foundation was always basically in the underground, coming from Chicago. So we were flipping houses on a smaller scale for one-off investors, doctors who own a couple properties. So again, you're going to hear a lot of those trigger words like, you know, what they're looking for with visionaries and integrators and COOs. There was no need for any of that then. We were just trying to figure out which column's going to hold the kitchen up, get paid, and go to the next one.
Right.
You hear me? You got it? So we just made it happen. But, you know, the cool thing about why I consider myself one of the top guys in the game is because we were using social media before social media was actually what it was now. I would literally grab my phone and walk around the streets of Chicago and laugh at all of the mistakes I made. And I would just post that and say, oh, look at this house we did, and I messed up the floor, and the paint's choppy, and we didn't patch all the way, and my client's upset, and we'll figure it out. So people caught on and started looking at all the mistakes. So they didn't really look at us like we're idiots. They were actually fascinated by the entertainment. Then fast forward all these years where it's all about social media. Now it's like we had such a big platform before. It was really easy to show them that clearly we grew, we know what we're doing, and here's the proper way to do it.
Right.
But yeah, but we didn't care. I was 21, man. I was like a Chicago cowboy, as you would say.
Probably not. Probably would not refer to anyone as Chicago.
No, I could pass as a cowboy. I could walk through these streets. They would just think I'm a local. Watch. Just don't let me speak.
Yeah.
But I could pass.
Or maybe it's dark and they can't see you.
I got a good tan.
All right. So the first segment's the bottom line up front. I want you to take up to 2 minutes to, you know, we live in an attention deficit society. Someone out there is listening right now, but they're going to pull over and get gas and they're going to forget to turn it back on. Like, that's just the way it happens.
Yeah.
So up to 2 minutes, kind of the most important things you see going on right now, things you think people should be looking at, listening to, focusing on, avoiding, kind of like a 2-minute clip note of what we're going to talk about for the next half hour.
All
right, you ready?
Got it.
Go.
So here's the bottom line. If you're in a house flipping right now, if you're multifamily, single family, it really doesn't even matter to me. New land development, commercial spaces, mixed use, retail, tell me, I don't care. Bottom line is you need to understand a couple things that are happening. One, inflation is here to stay. Get used to it. Markups are always going to be part of your process and budget. Get used to it. Budgets are projected moving targets. Get used to that. There will always be change orders. Make peace with that. There's always going to be an issue with your projected schedule. That's why they call it projected versus actual. Make peace with that. So all I'm going to tell you right now, right here with Tim, we're going to discuss a few things, and that's the basis of contracting and how the money in today's market is affecting your bottom line, right? Because if you don't understand how important and significant your budget is, it affects me and my team and my business and the way we can profit. So we need to work together, right? You and I need to work together, and that's why you go to callmydog.com, right? That's what we do. We show you guys. Why? Because it's extremely, extremely important to understand that when you are an investor, and I don't care what you invest in, if you choose not to learn our side of the fence, we will take your money, and that's the bottom line.
But let's start talking about, I like the way you said make peace with that.
Make peace with it.
It's kind of like understand what it is and learn to work with it, right?
Bro, so many people over the years, they can't conceptualize that until it happens. And what I mean by that is there's just things that are going to happen. They're norms in construction, like deposits, for example. You have to understand that rehabbing is a small sliver niche of construction. And your C-level rehabbers are the only ones that are going to touch that. An A-level rehabber would never touch your margin for 15%. Not going to happen. They'd have to do 100 jobs a year to make up for 1 or 2 or 10 $75,000 baseline kitchens. Because retail, we can market up 33 to 40%. You guys in the investment side, including myself as an investor as well, we don't have the margin for that. So you pay for what you get, right? So from a contractor's world, we see investors come in, we're like, here we go again, right? And it's not our job to educate you. That's not what you're hiring us for. It's a fee for service, right? I need you to remodel this. Great. Well, I'm not going to educate you on that. You better know your thing. So what we do is we always work with the investors and the investment companies and the hedge funds and say, learn general contracting so you understand construction. Not because you want to be a general contractor, so you know how to operate that business model, how it functions, because you have to protect every dollar. Not in the sense of keep it for yourself, but in the sense of where am I losing? How can I possibly lose? But also, you want your partners, the contractors, to make money too. It's pretty simple. So if I feel that you don't know what you're supposed to know, I don't know you, you don't know me. Hey, Roddy, I've got a house here in Dallas. I'd like you to come take a look at it. Give me a bit.
Well, first, I'm looking for an investor-friendly contractor.
Investor-friendly contractor. I look at you and go, I'm that guy.
Yeah.
Right? And you hear all this all the time, and you hear the same thing, and we talked about this at dinner. How many projects did you do last year? 3, 4, 5. Cool. How many are you going to do this year? 100. No, you're not. Like, how does that even work? And when right off the bat, I look at that number variance and go, you have no understanding of finances at all, because that's not even remotely going to happen. You'll be lucky to flip 100 houses in your career, man.
Right.
Let's be realistic. So when you look at that, we've done thousands of flips, thousands, easily, over 15 years, right? So we can look at a project. I can pretty much mark it down. I can pretty much ballpark it. All I need to do is some details. Is there anything specific you need? Or is there anything grand? What's the ERV? But see, as a contractor-friendly investing company, we did learn investing. So I understand the ARV and significance of what that means. I understand the comparables in the real estate and the aspects of what that means. I understand hard money, right? I understand how that process works. Third-party inspections work. Municipalities, inspectors with the cities, how they operate.
Well,
There's so much there, bro.
I know.
But you can't be an investor and just call me and say, hey, come flip my house when you don't know anything about what I just listed.
Well, that's right. And I want to go back. I mean, you start out, you're 21 years old, you're a contractor in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
You start flipping houses. 08 hits. The world changes. I know a little bit of the story, but can you talk about like what was next for like Rotty and his brands, and then kind of what you did moving into that?
So by the time we were in 08, I felt like our business we were solidified. We were winning awards. We were being recognized by Remodeling Magazine. And then at that point, I'm probably late 20s. And I'm cocky. I'm confident. I'm feeling good. We're making money. And I think I know what I'm doing. And then all of a sudden, I start seeing these little IH, imitation home vans, or American Homes for Rent vans, or trucks. And what I'm seeing is a lot of smaller contractors getting these jobs, and they're like turning and burning full homes. And I'm like, what is that about? So I realized that it was the hedge funds that had come in and started making their move, and they're doing 10,000 units a market kind of thing. All I needed was, who's my contact, right? So in my mind, I'm like, who would I contact? I just need like a director of construction, because that's who you hire to run your construction divisions if it's corporate. So I'm like, who is this individual? Where can I find him? And at that time, it's not like I could just Google that, right? I mean, you can, but it's not like you can just Google now and find somebody. So I remember I did what I did for a long time. As I saw a dumpster on a property, I walked in, introduced myself, and said, hey, man, there's another contracting company. I was like, do you guys, I go, who owns this? Is it a person or is it a company? And the guy goes, I don't even know. And I said, if you don't know, it's a company. It's that simple, right? I'm like, but my brain always operated at a higher level. That's why I was like, if you don't know who gave you the contract, then a company gave you the contract. So that's what I want to know. And I just kind of waited, and one of their project managers showed up, and I said, hey, dude, do you need more guys? He goes, we're always looking for more guys. And he gave me his card. Sure enough, it was a project manager for Invitation Homes. And then I said, let's done. I made a phone call. He introduced me to, there's 2 Brians at the time. He introduced me to, there's like a construction superintendent, and then the construction director of construction, which I presumed, got on the roster, and it was a carousel. Understanding, and this is significant to you listeners, understanding how the hedge fund process works at the highest level changed my business model. Because when I started looking at the forms, the budgets, the schedules, the way they did sub-inventory, the way they partnered with vendors, the way they structured their money, the way they allocated funds, I was like, if I can take that itty-bitty piece and add that to my itty-bitty little construction company, I'll always make money. I had no clue I'd make it as far as we made it, got as big as we got. But I owe it to the hedge funds. That's why anytime the hedge funds come around, I always work with the hedge funds, because I know the process. Right. So I started taking that part, which is the corporate entity, the business part of construction. And that's what investors don't understand too. This is a business. I say it all the time. I've said it forever. This is not a hobby. This is a business. And you have to understand the business of construction. And there is a business to construction. And in our world, what do we need? We need shelter, food, and healthcare, right? We can provide the shelter if you learn how to do it. So I started saying, I'm going to take these sheets, master them, and I'm going to dispense those to my subs. And I'm going to do the exact same way that they would award me a contract. I'm going to award it to my subs. And soon enough, we became the umbrella paper GC, and I had all these small GCs underneath my umbrella, right? And we just said, you guys don't worry about contracts. I'll be the bridge that I talk about between the white-collar world and the blue-collar world. I said, I'll make sure you guys all are fed, knock these things out. Here's the process. Here's when you get paid, right? And we built a massive company out of that. Boom. Soon enough, we're winning more awards. We're a top 550 contractor 5 years running. We're a big 50, which means we're one of the big 50s You're talking about over 600,000 registered GCs in the country at that time.
Right.
You know, we're in the top. And I'm sitting there going, this is phenomenal. But what goes up must come down.
Well, in that time period, how many turns did you do?
We were doing over 110 a year.
110 a year. And that's
as contractors.
That's cooking.
As contractors. To this day, I've never met anybody that could do anything close to that from the contract.
And that wasn't just painting carpet. Like, they went in and did everything.
All they would do is, you were at that time period, and I would say that's 08 to 15. The run on that was we were making 15%. And they would tell you, your fee, your GC fee is 15%. So I said, cool, 2,000, 4,000, 6,000, 10,000. That's what I'm making every time. But their system was so flawless in terms of, here's the carpentry list. We've already vetted the vendors and the subs, so you don't have to worry about windows. You just call them when you need them. You don't have to worry about carpet. You just call them when you need them. And I said, genius, right? So I said, perfect. I'm going to take that same thing and emulate it. So all I was doing is saying, I would give my carpentry, which is what they actually hired us for, which could be anywhere between $25,000 and $55,000. So I always knew where the budget's going to fall. It's in the same ballpark. So I just told my guys, what do you need to survive if I give you 25 this year? Oh, I want to make 15%. I want to make 20%. That's fine, because I know that I'm already guaranteed the 15. I will find the 15 in there for you. Right. And we just did that nonstop. And then when you look at things, it's literally, it's like going from hammer to computer, right? It's like, all right, you guys go do your work. Let me figure out the numbers.
Right.
Because I want to make sure you get paid. And then what we started doing is, let's say RCN, right? You give me a draw sheet. This is how the draws are going to work based on our schedule, right? I would then make a whole separate draw sheet internally with the Rehab Depot, and that draw sheet was being given to my subs. So if I invoice line item 6 for kitchen, and I'm invoicing for $10,500, because that's the line item that you and I have approved, I was underwritten for that, right? Then, and I negotiated with my sub that he's only getting $8,500 of that. We both get paid at the same time. So I send in my 10.5 invoice, you guys pay it, he gets his 8.5, he's paid me by the next task, I take my $3,000, that's my profit. And we do that every line item down. And as long as I was transparent with my subs, they knew what they were making at all times.
Right.
They didn't care what I was making, because they knew that they were making their money every time.
Yeah.
So, and that's a key. I mean, understanding that process. If you don't understand that process, how could you negotiate with me? And the way we teach and operate and consult is, I'm your contractor. I'm telling you how the game is done. I'm telling you what I need. I'm telling you how it works. And if you're not listening, how can I work with that? Because I'm going to get screwed real quick, and so are you. But the reality is, you're going to get screwed 10 times harder, because I'll bail before I even get screwed.
Yeah, right. So,
you like that?
I do. And
it's bourbon in this.
Yeah, I can make that happen. It's interesting. You and I kind of went through the same process, right? Like, I had been flipping houses for a decade before 08 happened.
Right.
And made it through the Great Recession. By the time I met the guys at Blackstone in 2013, I'd done thousands of houses by myself. I'd been number one in the nation at Home Investors. We talk about what goes up comes down. But then I met those guys, and part of me thought they were stupid. The other part of me thought it was the most ingenious thing people I'd ever been around. Like, the processes, the systems. And I think that's one of the things I respect about you is you know what you're doing, but you have an open mind to learn new things continuously. And so you were able to take that kind of corporate process-driven, you know, they've got these consultants, they pay millions of dollars, you know, to define all that. And you were like, oh, well, that's cool. I'll just copy that and then apply it to this basic business. And then you turn it into...
But the interesting thing about what you just said is, they'll pay millions of dollars to a consultant, as they should, because I'm a consultant, right? But they're paying it from the investment side to an investment-minded side to create that model, which is important. What needs to also happen is they need to hire a construction side consultant to make sure that what was deployed works. And that's why I took their process and I made it work for me, but I have refined their processes without them even knowing it for over a decade, because they gave me the start. They gave me A, B. I just finished with C and D,
right,
because I knew what our side actually really needed. This gave me a great start. I finished it. So having that, whatever hedge fund would have both of those consultants or both of those pieces put together will be number one forever, because you can't, I say this all the time, investors that choose to rehab, build, or anything like that need to understand construction to some level. Contractors who choose to work with investors need to understand investing to some level. each party in the transaction owes it to each other to understand where we're coming from. Then we profit.
Well, there are three pieces.
I just got butterflies because that shit's real.
Yeah.
Like, that's what it's all about. If I know you, I'm making money.
There's three pieces, and I say this a lot. There's three levers in property investment, right? There's what you pay for the house. That's lever number one, and you have no control over that. The market's going to define that, right? I mean, in Dallas, if I can say I go find motivated sellers or whatever, but they've got 8 other investors knocking on their door right now. And so the market kind of drives what I got to pay for it. The middle lever is what you spend on the property. We'll come back to that. And then the last lever is what it will rent for or sell for. Well, the market defines that.
Mm-hmm.
So I've told investors all the time, that middle lever is where you need to focus.
Right.
And when I say what you spend on it, we've talked about this a lot at our mastermind this week. It's not just the construction cost. It's the carry cost. It's the soft cost. It's the delays. And so get ready to talk about that. We're going to hit that right when we come back from a break, okay?
Got it.
Stick around. We'll be right back. Here at RCN Capital, we understand that everyone's financial needs are different. Whether you're pursuing long-term or short-term ventures, our wide range of loan programs will help reach your financial goals with ease and flexibility. We have loan programs for fix and flips, long-term rentals, new construction, and multifamily properties. And don't forget to ask about our Platinum program for experienced investors. To learn more about our loan programs or apply, click the link in our bio or email info@rcncapital.com. Welcome back to Uncontested Investing. Hey, listen, click below, like, subscribe, hop on the podcast app, give us a good rating, a review, let us know what you think. Here we are. Roddy, I got to talk about this.
All right.
As a lender, we always make sure that we loan 100% of the projected rehab. Right? If we're going to get a down payment or short you somewhere on the loan, it's going to be on the purchase price.
Mm-hmm.
It's never going to be on the rehab because we got to make sure you finish, right? I mean, but when I look at investors, one of my best examples is they'll spend 2 weeks trying to save $1,000 on a plumbing bill,
Okay.
and they'll burn $2,200 worth of interest, taxes, insurance, and utilities.
Yes.
But then you were telling me about some other financial cost of delaying construction. Could we just spend a little bit of time about that middle lever, talking about how they can control what they spend and even some of those hidden costs?
All right. So, yeah, of course. So you said, and again, that comes from the investment side, right? All the carrying costs, all those, the what ifs, the red area, the gray areas that you have to be concerned with, be it on the lending side or the borrower side. There's those areas that are great for you guys. We equally have gray areas in construction, right? And if you don't know that, and we know that, and we don't know what yours are, then we're really both kind of like two ships at night, just passing each other. And we're definitely going to pass each other because I have to have an understanding about your draw process and the time frame on that. I have to understand how many months you have your loan for. I have to understand when are you supposed to, when does this note come due? All these different things. That'd be beneficial to us if you shared that with us. But you probably couldn't. Most people still wouldn't understand it anyway. But the reality of it is we have the same burdens. We call it labor burden. So pre-2020, right, your average man per day on a rehab is $200 a day. Right, you put 3-4 guys on a job. How much is that a day? Adds up pretty quick.
Yeah.
Right? Most investors don't know that. Now we have inflation. You're adding 30, 40, 50% to a lot of that stuff. So let's say your guy costs $350, $400 a day. That ended up even larger. Here's the other thing. Some people want to get slick and say, "Oh, I'm going to hire a guy on an hourly basis or a handyman." Do it, no problem. But understand that he's really not $25 an hour or 35 or 50 or whatever you're going to accept. You've got to double that because the labor burden, because we have our own grays too. Vehicle might break, weather might hit. We have delays on materials, whatever that is, that honestly aren't truly our fault. It's just what it is, the life we live, right? So I might actually cost you $50 or $50 an hour when it's all said and done, because you take that $25 an hour and you multiply that by 40, 45, 50%. That's going to give us the gray area, but really it helps your payroll. So you really understand that I'm costing you a lot more, right? And we call that a labor burden. So when we do anything where I hire guys and I put them on an hourly basis, I usually just double what they are. They don't know that, but I do because I know I have to bid that estimate correctly. Know that, and we call it padding, which is a bad word, but we have to cushion our numbers as well for our what ifs, just the way you guys do it on the LTV, right? So it's very, very similar. There's a rhyme and a reason. There's I would say parallel circumstances, but the reality is, again, and I'll go back to this, if each party does not understand that, you're still losing. That's why there's contingency plans. And oftentimes I would teach that contingencies can be 10% under 100,000, and then for every $100,000 increment, 10% more, right? But now I've said to get rid of all that. So like, for example, when we provide budgets, and we provide budgets objectively for a lot of people, we get paid good for that. And what we do is we kind of list out your possible change orders and what those possible change orders might equate to financially. So I could say, okay, your budget is 50 grand, but here's a list of concerns I have for you. You know, we're not doing your job. So I can be honest with you and say,
you're not trying to get me pregnant. Then
exactly. So I'm like, I'm not doing the job for, like, we're not being contrary to do your job. You're paying us objectively to provide the numbers. Right. So we do that with lenders. We do that with private lenders. We do that with investors, anybody and everybody. We do this all the time. And I will always have a side pot that says, the HVAC looked good from the pictures and the videos. And from the conversations with the boots on the ground, the HVAC seems to be good. So certified for $350, that's in your hard cost already. Your what-if change order costs, if that needs to get replaced, is going to be about $5,700. So it says change order, possible HVAC system, central air system, $5,500. Next one could be roof. Certify the roof, but if not, ELB's telling me you've got 18 squares. You're probably going to equate to, I don't know if the average square is $200, $225 in your area. Do the math on that. You need to have that as a side pot, as a what if, right? Because those are significant change orders. We're not talking about trim and doors. We're not talking about light fixtures. We're talking about things that can kill a deal.
Right.
We're talking about things that need permitting possibly. So you have to understand those are significant change orders that need to be considered either in or outside your budget. However, you need to have a side pot. That's your coffee. That's got 50 grand in it. And here's another, you're going to need probably another 15,000.
I was just looking for the 50 grand.
But knowing that, if I provide you that, and you can say, damn, there's probably going to be an extra 17,500 possibly needed, and then you go back and underwrite that and go look at the numbers, maybe depending on how you look at it and who's holding the paper, maybe it's a benefit to RCN to say, no, we're not doing the deal because that's not what we thought the numbers are going to be because the valuation is different now. Or B, you're like, awesome, now we can actually do this deal correctly. I know what we need. More importantly, the borrower knows, okay, this is a more detailed budget, and they learned indirectly that that's how to do it. So everybody in the transaction is winning because we're just protecting the money on both parties. I'm like, look at it differently, right?
It's like,
so the percentage of 10% doesn't matter anymore. That went out the window. That could add up to 20 grand. What if I said it would add up to an additional 35,000 in change orders? You're like, that deal's dead. We all know that. I don't care what that was. That deal's dead. That's a lot of money to put aside. No. So what I always tell lenders is put that contingency and split that between an actual contingency line item and then project management. All right. And then you can this way they can pull from that if they need to when they draw to bail themselves out of trouble. So again, I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but so many lenders don't realize that there are tasks, people, and processes that get paid for, right? Utilities. You can do a line up for utilities. Land, they call it like the toilets and the fences and stupid things like that, right? You have project management, you have construction management, you got the foreman, you can have a technology line item. You can spread all that contingency through that. This way your contractor can pull from that if necessary. If they run into a jam and go, damn, I need that extra $4. Well, let's pull $1,500 from the project management line item because we are project managing. We'll take $1,000 from the CRM system because we do have a CRM system. So it's understanding how to reallocate the funds, but you can't do that if you don't have an accurate budget, and you can't do that if you didn't plan your contingency.
Yeah, you're talking about draws.
Did I just give you a headache?
No, I love it. I've got 9 million questions now.
I want to go home.
It's like it's like I tell people all the time. They almost try to impress the lender by coming up with a low budget number, and you're kind of like, I don't know. I mean, what about one of the most common things in North Texas is on a house built before 1980, sewer line replacement. It's just, they're cast iron pipes, they're clay pipes. Mm-hmm. Every house needs foundation work. And so when I buy a house, there's a $5,000 contingency on every house. And I think one of the things is I may not use that on this flip, but I may use 10 on the next one, right? Fair. And I'm running a business, so I can't, be consistent every time, but it's all about the margin and maintaining margins. But another common one I see investors forget is like mini blinds. It's just one of those things. Like they budget for all the majors, but they don't put plugs, plates, switches, and blinds. That's actually my line item in my house.
Bro, I can't say many investors are like, oh, I don't need that. I'm like, don't you think it'll sell?
Yeah.
To me, it's common.
I always put $1 a foot in for plugs, plates, switches, and blinds because it's just number one, if I ask my lender for that draw, there's going to be plugs, plates, switches, and blinds.
Right.
So I can get that money. Right. And I like that a little bit better than just putting like miscellaneous, like
I totally agree.
I try to really think through like the things I miss.
Totally agree.
And then you were
talking line item is too loose.
You were talking about something earlier that is very important to me. It's communicating with contractors. And you were talking about, I don't even know if you know it, you were saying how you share the draw schedule with your subs and your workers. So they know how you get paid so that they know when they get paid. Mm-hmm. And one of the best things I've done is show the draw schedule to my contractors, right? Because a contractor thinks, hey, you're rich, give me money when I need it, right? They're not thinking, okay, when I finish the cabinets, Tim can get the money to pay me, right? And so you mentioned it twice. How important is that transparency with your team so they understand like the flow of money, I guess?
We talking about head sub to small sub or investor to sub?
Let's go investor to sub.
Well, transparency is key because of respect, right? So this goes back to what I say all the time. It comes down to respect. So if the more transparent you are with me, and this can happen as early or as soon as the pre-walk, right? You and I walk the house for the first time. I've got a scope, you've got a scope, and you're asking me more questions that are on the scope. Or you're really asking questions that you're unsure of, which compliments me. For example, you put your preliminary scope together, Roddy, meet me at the property, 123 Madison Street. Cool, see you at 9. Get there, and I notice on the scope there's a lot of areas that maybe you highlighted in yellow, which suggests we need to talk about that. Because, oh yeah, I got awesome scopes of work. They're color-coded, right? Red means we got a problem. Yellow means me and my contractor need to talk about this. And black means go and keep business as usual, right? So anything in yellow, I go take them to the part of the house, whether it be an MEP system or a roofing siding, window or a deck or a porch, just say, I've got questions on this. How many square feet do we really need to replace on this? And what's that going to cost? And what's the time frame? Because I don't know if I want that in my scope, and I also don't know if I need to even touch it. That compliments the contractor because you're asking for an expertise, but it also opens up the door to discussion. Now we can build a rapport and relationship, because I always say this: if you're going to get in bed with me and date me for 3 months and think you're going to fire me after 2, we're going to get divorced,
right?
But it's too late, right? I already made my money,
right?
And I know exactly when to pull the trigger to get out on my last payment,
right?
And you're still left holding the bag. When we could have just had great discussions 3 months prior. So the pre-walk is significant to what you're saying. That's where that transparency begins. Because at that level, if we're having that kind of conversation, I can figure out if I like you, respect you, can work with you, the way you should be looking at me the same way. Do I like him? Do I respect him? Can I work with him? Then we can talk about a lot of things, because shit will hit the fan. It's construction. But sometimes when that happens, it leads to financial issues and challenges, which people get funny about money. It's life. It's human nature. So building that rapport early on in the pre-walk is significant, more than just, do you want to do the job? Do you have any questions? Here's my budget. Here's my time frame. You control the temperament. I don't care if you're a new investor or you've done thousands of investments or a hedge fund manager. I don't care. If you can't build a relationship with your subs, you have no respect. I own you no matter how you slice it. Just give me the money. Give it to me, because I'm going to take it anyway.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and as an investor, one of the worst feelings is getting to the end of a project and knowing that you have no control.
Or I would even go for a step further to say, yes, knowing you have no control, but at the same time, prior to that feeling, you're getting this anxiety of like, something's not right here, and I don't know what it is.
Oh yeah, when I say no control, I mean like, you know that you could never finish the project for as much as you owe them. When they get ahead of you, once they get ahead of you, you're host.
Well, yeah, but if there's trust transparency, you could discuss that.
Yeah,
and I might decide, if I'm your contractor, I might be like, oh, well, I go to, what happened? Did you overpay me or something like that? I don't have a problem going back and looking and say, oh, you know what, you did give me an extra $2,500. Let's just apply that to the next one or something like that, But again, it's so much deeper than that. It's understanding, like, the more an investor understands the process of construction, you singularly can eliminate 90% of your problems.
So we're going to stop right there, because we're going to take a break. Then we're going to do the money myth.
Take a break.
and then we're going to do the money minute, but then we're going to start immediately with understanding processes, and I want to delve into what your virtual project management's doing for people, okay? Stick around. We'll be right back.
REI Inc. is a monthly business publication for real estate investors, covering all types of real estate investments and strategies. It is the most comprehensive real estate investment publication on the market. All of the articles are written by the top leaders in the industry, so investors are assured of always getting the best information possible. Each month, REI Inc. also profiles the top companies in the industry and provides insights and data into key regional markets. Along with their sister platforms, the REI Referral Network and Highest Invest, real estate investors have exclusive access to off-market investment opportunities and national acquisition and disposition initiatives. To learn more, visit www.rei-inc.com, where you can also access the REI Referral Network. Also, be sure and visit www.highest-and-best.com to view the latest exclusive off-market assets with near immediate acceptance decisions and closing strategies. You can also email marketing@rei-referralnetwork.com to request more information.
Welcome back to Uncontested Investing. Tim Herridge. Don't forget, click below, rate, like, subscribe, review. Let us know what you think or ask us questions. Roddy, it's time for the Money Minute. Imagine there's an entrepreneur out there. Maybe it's 21-year-old Roddy running around Chi-Town. Chi-Town? That's
Chi-Town.
Chi-Town. Maybe it's the contractors out there that you know are struggling. Maybe it's the investors, whoever it is. But imagine this is the only 60 seconds of advice they're going to get all month. Like, this is it. Like, they're deaf to the entire world after this 60 seconds. So it's got to be the go juice. Pour into them. Are you ready?
Go.
Go.
So here's your Money Minute. If you're new, if you're seasoned, if you're experienced, I don't even care what level you're at. I'm going to tell you as your contractor. Now remember, I am your contractor talking to you right now. If you choose not to know or learn or at least attempt to understand what I know, I own you. And when I say I own you, that means contractors around the country are going to take your money. Why? Because they have been doing it for years. It is not your contractor's job to teach you how to rehab your property. It is their job to be hired for a fee for service to get your job done. Kitchens, baths, flooring, the whole nine. I don't care what they're doing for you. What I'm trying to tell you is you need to take it upon yourself. Here's your Money Minute. To learn general contract. Not because you want to be a general contractor, but there is a difference between contractors and general contracting. One cannot work without the other. So if you think that you're going to be the COO type, which is most investors, especially if you're new, you buy the property, you're going to go out there, all of a sudden you're kind of the part-time project manager, part-time sub, part-time material handler, part-time schedule maker, part-time everything. Part-time does not get you paid. It gets me paid, won't get you paid, because I'm full-time everything. So first and foremost, learn general contracting so you can understand guys like us. 2, make sure you understand the process of putting together a budget. And once and only once, when you can do that, then you can award contracts. You'll never have to wait for a bid again. Because if you don't know how to bid your own projects, I own you again. Here's why. I bid everything in my company. I just award contracts. I don't wait for my drywall guy. I don't wait for my painters. I don't wait for the flooring guys. I know my numbers because I study my numbers. So instead of studying Wall Street all day long, like Tim, right? You got to also study the numbers in construction as well, because it's a very significant industry. The whole world needs shelter. So I think it's pretty significant for you to take the time to start learning my numbers and what inflation did to our numbers and what supply chains did to our numbers, right? We suffer the same issues you suffer on your side of the fence. So 1, learn my business. 2, understand general contracting. 3, master your budgets. And then 4, award contracts. Then build rapport with me so we have trust and transparency and we will win together.
So now I act like you just finished the Money Minute. All right. So this is great. And I wanted, a couple months ago, I'm that bad investor, right? Like, I do know how to run my numbers, but I'm not like on every project anymore. Mm-hmm. And your virtual project managers were helping us build a budget.
Yes.
And my guy sends you like an email, and I died laughing because I couldn't wait for you to tear me apart. Like, it was like, paint, $15,000, kitchen, $15,000,
yep.
Flooring, $15,000, and it said,
I remember
it said other $8,000, and I just remember I was reading it. I was like, oh shit, Roddy is gonna tear me up.
Well, because I looked at that and said, this is terrible, but that's why that's why you asked for help. And I looked at it and said, well, baseline level 1 rehab of this type of house in the ARV would be around 60 to 75,000. So I was comfortable starting you off at your foundational baseline, but I needed more information.
Right. And then we got you the pictures, and I loved the way you had the contingency items kind of spelled out. Because at first I see 120,000, and I was like, oh my God, he's crazy. But then I started looking back through it. I was like, oh, well, this is if this, which I just found it as informational, right? Like, and then I'd actually never even seen the house, never even looked at the comps. I started looking at the comps. I realized it was actually a $700,000 house. And at that point, I know it needs more than that level 1 rehab. And so I started looking at your bid, and it ends up that our 60 turned into about 105. And that was a really good number, because you had looked at the pictures, and I really like that. And now you're doing these virtual project managements for people. Clearly, they're not going out to the site because they're virtual.
Right.
Talk about why you created that, and like, because I think it's awesome the way it helps people put their numbers together and their scope, because then they can award contracts.
Yeah.
Could you kind of talk about what that does, that virtual PM thing?
Right. Absolutely. So when we came up with the concept of a DVPM, a dedicated virtual project manager, we call them dedicated because, let's say Tim hires one of our guys or girls, you'll have them for life. So if you come back to us over the next 10 years for 150 more of your properties, you'll always have the same individual unless they die, quit, or we fire them, obviously.
Right.
So we wanted you to build that relationship because it's personal. And project management is a very personal, relationship-based position. People don't realize that. Even in construction, it's relationship-based because that project manager is not only the face of your company, but they also have to deal with the subcontractors and just try to make peace at all times, create that understanding. So the virtual project managers came about because we were receiving so many calls, and we put out services like, hey, give us a call for $250 an hour, like consulting calls, like, do you have a problem with your project? Or we'll bid it for $150, or all these things. I said, as a company, we're offering like 9 different services. Why don't we just put out virtual project managers that'll do it all for you? Right. And then we just categorize them by expertise, single family, multifamily, and new construction. And once we launched that, it was a home run, obviously. But we just knew that it allowed the investor to feel a little more comfortable, to know they got somebody that's got their back, that's going to say, hey, let me show you something. Your budget, for example, needs a little bit more, and here's what I need, and I can really tighten that up for you so you can make this deal actually work. And then they're really almost advisory roles too. So indirectly, the client gets to learn, because we're going to say that's not good enough. We need to redo that. Boom, they redo the scope of work. Right. You just learn, like, damn, that's a great scope of work. We have to redo that budget. You're like, damn, I never thought about a contingency plan. Right? You in the budget, I don't remember the budget I created for you, but I do remember putting in line items that did not even exist in your email, like project management.
Oh yeah, you broke it up. Like, you were like, I can't do $15,000 for a kitchen.
Of course not.
We got to
break carpentry. I put carpentry in there, and when we do that, it's our experience to know that actually benefits you as a lender too, and the borrower, because we're giving you a carpentry line item to pull from. We're giving you a project management line to pull from. We're giving you a contingency plan to make sure you have a pot to pull from. Make peace with it. Change orders are going to happen. Right. We're in redevelopment, not development, right? So we're taking something that was built maybe 50, 60, 70, 100 years ago, depending on what you're buying, and trying to make this now fit with that. The lumber is not even the same size anymore, man. 100 years ago, you actually had a 2x4. These days, it's not even a 2x4 anymore. It's small. It's shrunken. So you have to think about logically. Materials have changed. Bricks aren't even like they were before, right? So the quality, in my opinion, was better then. Those laborers were monsters. Our grandfathers and great-grandfathers were beasts back then. These are little boys these days.
I did a 150-year-old house recently, and the 2x4s, like you said, they were 2 inches by 4 inches.
Massive.
Like, they were cutting a sawmill, and they used iron nails.
Mm-hmm.
You think you're cool with your nail gun? Go ever some iron nails.
That's what I'm talking about.
Right?
That's what I'm talking about. But because of things like this is why we created the virtual call center. And, it's something that we market now all over social media, but it's still relatively unknown. And our call center can work for any investor in any market, right? We work with you. We'll work with your project manager. We'll work with your team, your designers. We work with whatever you've got. And if you do not have a team, we become that team for you, which means, at some level, Tim's got to be involved in our conversation.
Yeah.
But it at least alleviates so much more stress from you. because we have our daily huddles or our weekly calls. I'll say, hey, this is what's going on in your project. I need you, Tim, to go to that project, take 10 pictures, send me 10 videos or 2 videos. But indirectly, you get to also join our software system.
Right.
So we're collaborating live. I can look at my phone all day long and see what's going on all day, every day on every project across the country and see who's communicating with what. If they tag me, then I need to get involved. If they don't tag me, I don't need to get involved. Right? It's communicating and collaborating. So our virtual project managers, in my opinion, are a very disruptive service to the industry, but a much needed service, because it also allows consumers to get involved in a conversation with their sub. It allows lenders, if they wanted to get involved and be a fly on the wall when you lend Karen 50 G's, 150,000, and I'm her contractor and you're her lender, and we're sitting there doing that, right? And you could just sit there and go, okay, things seem to be progressing. You never have to chime in unless you really want to.
Right.
And if we have a lending issue where I'm like, you know what, let's see if we can reallocate line 13 and line 14. Tim, is that cool? Should we send it to your girl? And you were jumping to say, yeah. Everybody in the transaction is part of that conversation virtually.
Yeah.
That eases everybody.
I wouldn't. My servicing team would.
Of course not. You're big time, bro.
Now, all right, so we're going to run out of time soon. I got to do some really quick rapid fire questions. There's some things I have. So I pay transaction managers $450 to $750 a file to manage from like contract to close. In essence, your DVPMs kind of pick that up and take me all the way through rehab completion, right? Like, which seems like, and how much is that? Right now, I know
family, $849.99 per project per month.
How much?
$849.99 per project per month.
Per project.
So if you've got a single family home that's going to take 3 months, you're going to pay for 3 months $850.
Right, you're $1,500 or
more than that, but still less than anything you'd ever pay for.
My math is horrible today. $2,700, but
doesn't even compare to what an actual PM fee would be.
Well, you definitely can't hire someone else to manage a project. You were talking about yesterday a Gantt chart, and you said
yes.
That somebody else probably didn't know what it was. I don't know what it is. What's a Gantt chart?
Gantt chart is what you should be using at RCN, and here's why. And this is what investors use, and contractors use it all the time, A-level contractors. It's how we measure progress per project, per task, and measure payments, right? So, for example, I'll dumb it down for you.
Good, because it's rapid fire.
All right, step 1, demo. Projected start date, June 1st. Demo's 2 days. We document, okay, demo's 2 days. When I say I want to draw for demo, if I go there, you go there on the 3rd day and it's not done, clearly it wasn't done in 2 days. I don't get 100% of the draw. And everything just staggers over that. So we can measure by how many days each task, how many days for electric, how many days for finished electric, how many days for tiling, how much for painting. This way, you literally protect your money and you only allot and pay the percentage of that chart, how much has been complete. And you stick that thing like this size on the wall. I say, you print that out, stick it on the wall so you, your contractor, and the inspectors can see that collectively, and your project management walks and go, dude, we're falling behind, which is called slippage. We got to find the float. Float means buyback. So if I lose 4 days on electrical because it became a bigger issue, I got to look further down because the Gantt chart tells me I can and say, where can I buy those 4 days back? What task in the future can we minimize?
So, and if you have someone that helps me do that?
Yeah, we do that. Our project manager.
Which is huge because a month worth of interest is a whole lot more than 3 months worth of that, right? All right, so we're almost out of time. Number one mistake investor, you've seen them, let's say small to medium-sized investors make when it comes to rehabbing houses.
Wrong budget. Not enough money. Literally, not enough money. I mean, that's number one. They have a $50,000 budget when literally they need 95.
Yeah, in my experience, I've done a couple thousand, and I would say that I have 2 types of rehabs, over budget and way over budget. But a lot of that's because I part-time manage it and kind of go around and make decisions that weren't in the plan.
Right.
I get all HGTV. Well, and actually, I grew up in a contracting family, so I'm one of those, like, I'll rip out cabinets because I just kind of, those are, yeah. Anyway, all right, we're out of time. How do people callthedog.co?
So you have 2 ways to call me. So if you need, which camera am I looking at?
Your camera.
There's that handsome guy. So www.callmydog.co. If you need consulting and you just come look at your projects and assets on a higher level and grow your construction division, that's the one to go to. Or Rotty Virtual PM if you want to use one of our virtual project managers to help you navigate any and all projects moving forward. Look me up on IG, baby. Roddy Flipped It.
Roddy Flipped It on Instagram. He's very active, always dropping knowledge and bombs. I'm grateful that you spent the time to come in here. It means the world to me.
Thank you,
thank you for being here, and I guess I'll see you real soon.
See you at lunch.
All right. We're out of time today. Thank you very much for stopping back by. Remember, your network is your net worth, and today you've been growing both. We'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening to the Uncontested Investing Show. Questions about today's episode or the podcast? Email podcast@rcncapital.com and make sure to follow RCN Capital on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. See you all next time. The preceding program is furnished by RCN Capital LLC. The information provided is for general education purposes only and does not constitute any legal, financial, investment, or other professional advice. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed by any speaker are the speaker's own opinion and do not represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of RCN Capital LLC. No information contained in this episode should be construed as financial, investment, or legal advice from RCN or any individual, author, host, or guest. You should always consult a financial advisor before investing.